21 years deep into training, 10 plus years out of retirement from the stage, I fully committed to a goal that I was always after when I first started this journey. But unfortunately, life had other plans and I set it aside. But at 35 years old, fully understanding that my goal to accomplish this won't be around forever, this year I've fully committed to going all in on my IFBB Pro card. I've put my heart and soul into my training, my diet, and my lifestyle for the last 6 months. I've lived the bodybuilding lifestyle for the last 21 years. No excuses. However, the last 6 months, I've taken that to a new level of professionalism. That means every single gym session, every single meal, every single task, my schedule from the time I open my eyes till my head's hit the sheets at night, it's all been completely structured and accounted for. And in my opinion, as a result, my physique is at its all-time best. Now, we still have 12 weeks to go for my first show and 15 weeks for my pro qualifier. I'm taking this prep day by day, taking it week by week. And in the meantime, I'm maximizing every single thing I can do to accomplish my goal. Now, there's not a whole lot that's different with my nutrition plan. In fact, getting shredded has always been the easiest part of bodybuilding for me. This prep, my macros and my meal timing and food choices, they're all fairly on point with previous preps. My supplementation is essentially the same as it's been year round. I'm obviously sponsored by Transparent Labs. I have access to some of the best, highest quality supplements on the market, and I use those in the same scenario pre-contest as I was doing in the off-season. I can make a full breakdown of my supplementation as well as my nutrition in a different video. Now, if you know my history, you'll know every contest I've competed at was 100% natural and drug-free. Now, at 36, as I go for my pro card, my goal is to push my body to its absolute peak while focusing on my health. As a result, I work with doctors closely to manage my hormones for peak performance and longevity, just like any serious athlete should do at this level. Personally, I take a strategic health-first approach to ensure I'm performing at my best while prioritizing my long-term well-being. Now, I know people love throwing around words like trend, anadrol, and grams of gear. And honestly, I just laugh. Guys, I'm 195 pounds, not 250. There's a huge difference between medically guided hormonal support and abusing compounds that weren't even made for human consumption. Now, that doesn't mean I don't respect guys who take that route, especially at the highest levels in bodybuilding. Unfortunately, at the top of the game, there's nothing healthy about what you're doing to get there. But everyone has their own path and I respect the grind. But for me personally, my mission is to earn my pro card while keeping my health in check, focusing on my performance and my longevity. And in 2025, with everything we have available, from personalized hormonal management to research-backed supplementation and access to doctors working with you directly, there's no reason just to take unnecessary risks just to compete. But nonetheless, that's not the focus of this video and that's not why you came here. You came here for the one thing that I did change significantly in this off-season and this prep, which honestly, I feel has made a significant difference in my results. Not just in the gaining phase, but how I look currently in this prep. That is my training routine. I've built my foundation of mass over the last 20 years. I did this using higher frequency, basic mass building training exercises, and the methods that I've repeatedly spoken about and promoted on this channel for years. And the heart and soul of that and how it applies to my training has not changed at all. But the split, the volume, and the frequency has to some degree. And it's been done purely out of necessity, based on my age, based on my training experience, my strength levels, my goals, and my need to bring up weak points. And as a result, my training is essentially transformed or evolved into more of a hybrid body part split. I have no plans of going full-on bro split. There are a ton of limitations to just training a body part once per week. And higher frequency training, again, has built my physique in the base long term, so it'll always have a special place in my heart. So the approach that I'm taking at the moment is a standard body part split over 5 days, but with built-in strategic overlap of muscles so that the frequency is higher than once per week. I do so with both direct and indirect work. And I'm also prioritizing weak body parts directly twice per week. So let's dive into the actual split. Day one is chest day. I have a very typical chest workout that basically trains 4 exercises. I'm currently doing anywhere from 2 to 4 sets per movement, and the volume waves over the weeks, meaning I'll do anywhere from 10 to 15 sets per chest. I'm not leaving any reps in the tank here. These are all performed to the last clean rep. Personally, I train all my pressing movements with lower reps of 6 to 8. Then my isolation movements, my fly movements, and some machine work, I'll go higher reps of 12 to even up to 20 repetitions. This way I'm getting both that heavy training stimulus on those heavier compounds and the higher rep metabolic pump work on the isolation and fly movements. Now again, on this chest day, there's also some strategic overlap to train other body parts. I also train shoulders on this day. My pressing for shoulders is very low volume. This is already such a high level of volume for chest pressing, those front delts are getting plenty of work. So I'll do one exercise for the front delt pressing for 2 to 3 sets. Again, 6 to 8 repetitions. Then the rest of my shoulder work that day is focused on the side and the rear delts. For side delts, I'm hitting one lateral raise variation, doing 4 to 5 sets of higher repetitions here, 15 to 20. Now, what I really like about training delts after chest is you have all that blood pooled in the muscle. Essentially, you're just gonna start forcing it from the pecs into the delts. There's not much distance for that blood to have to travel, so you get this massive pump all around. Now, I'll finish off that delt work with some rear delt. Purposely, what I'm doing here is I'm creating some more overlap for muscles. I wanna keep the frequency higher for back since we only have one day to train it directly. So what I'll do here to train those rear delts is I'll opt for some pulling exercises that are more rear delt specific. Again, training the back, but targeting the rear delts. Personally, I'm a huge fan of some super wide grip lat pull downs. This not only nails the rear delts, but to a lesser extent, there's still plenty of stimulation to the upper back and even the lats, not to mention some bicep work as well. So now this session is targeting the chest and the delts, but I'm effectively training the upper body fully in some capacity, with both direct and indirect work. I'll also finish off with a touch of some extra light tricep extensions. One movement, 3 to 4 sets. Higher reps here, just focusing on an additional pump. I'm saving that heavy direct tricep work for arm day later in the week. That's it for day 1. Day 2 is the next day dedicated to heavy leg training, specifically the quads. Now I'm training legs twice per week at the moment because they are a weak point I'm trying to bring up here. So the second session is going to be more glute and hamstring dominant. Now the biggest challenge I'm running into right now at the moment is my body's just not cooperating so much with heavy training. Talking about on legs specifically. Again, I'm gonna be 36 this year. I've taken no breaks from training since I'm 14. That's a lot of mileage, especially for years and years of heavy squats and deadlifts. So out of necessity, my training recently has been a lot more creative. Leg day is not set in stone and I'm forced to go based on how I feel. Now I can tell you typically what a leg day looks like if I'm feeling good. At the moment, I'll start with calves. 5 sets, working up progressively heavier in weight on seated calf raises, then 5 sets progressively working up in weight on some straight leg calf extensions. Basically, I'm spending the first 20 minutes or so of leg day just getting as much blood into those calves as possible. Once I'm done with that, I'll aim for some type of minimally spinal loading squat or leg press variation. Personally, I love a really good belt squat, but if I'm feeling good, I could do something like a pendulum squat or a leg press here. This again is going strictly by feel. Today I started with 1 plate per side for 12 reps on the belt squat. I continued adding 1 plate per side until we worked up to 12 total plates. I worked up to a top set of 12 with 6 plates per side. Then I did 2 more heavy sets of 10 and 6 reps by adding another plate. At this point I cut it, and normally I'll move on to something like a leg press or a lunge variation. This exercise is more focused on more of a glute stretch and some adductor work here. Today that was a single leg press. Same protocol on the belt squat, gradually working up in weight, ending up with 2 to 3 working sets. After that, I'll finish off the quads with some high rep leg extensions for 3 to 4 sets. Then it's just some basic glute and hamstring work for the session. Again, this is not a glute or hamstring focused day, so we're keeping it minimal. Now, if my back is feeling up for it on this day, since it's the heavier workout, I will incorporate some type of RDL. But at the moment, I'm taking no chances. And if that's out of the question, I'll go for something that's more glute and hip dominant, like a hip thrust. Nothing fancy, just what I can do on leg day at this stage. Day 3 is back day. And now there's not a ton of overlap here. It's a fairly standard higher volume pull session. I'm really focused on getting thicker and more dense at the moment, so there's a lot of row variations in my training. I'll typically do 10 to 14 sets of back on this session. Again, the volume waves and it ramps over time. I'll do 3 to 4 sets in total of direct trap work as well. And at the end, I'll throw in some very light bicep work. Since they're a strong point, I could really even get away with just skipping them all together. Now, out of 10 to 14 of those sets for back, usually comes out to about 3 exercises that are row variations, 1 that's a pull down, and 1 that's a pull over variation. 3 sets roughly on each exercise. Now, I tend to go much higher rep on my back days than I do in any other workout. While it's still a body part that I want to improve the appearance of, it's also one of the strongest performance-wise. Based on my 195-pound body weight, I can pull some serious weight in relation to my body. And as a result, certain movements just become very unstable with the loads I could use. And if you just don't have a very large amount of body weight and mass to counterbalance that weight, it can definitely make it a challenge to really target the muscle without momentum and assistance coming into play. I can often go into any gym and use the stack on a pull-down machine for 6 to 8 reps, but the problem becomes stabilizing my own body weight. Rather than simply focus on using my lats to pull that weight, I'm focused on keeping my body in position the entire lift. So to remedy this, I focus on a minimum of 15 repetitions. This now makes the limiting factor my lats and my back pulling the exercise and not my body weight counterbalancing. Now, day 4, I'll take a complete day of rest, and a much needed one after those 3 intense sessions. Day 5, I'll be back in the gym to hit arms. On this day, I'll train the biceps and triceps directly, but I'll also get some additional work in for the delts and the chest as well. Biceps is very straightforward. 3 exercises: barbell, dumbbell, and cable curl. 3 sets, hard and heavy, no fluff here. Triceps, I'll start off with dips. I'll actually perform these a bit more chest focused even on arm day. This will be my secondary chest work throughout the week, but it's also a massive tricep builder, even when performed with a bit more forward lean. So also will get my triceps warmed up and ready to go for the heavy tricep work I'm gonna do after. That's heavy skull crushers, and then I'll finish off triceps with some heavy press downs. After arms, I'll move on to some secondary delt work with additional lateral raises. And as a result, again, my arm day is heavily focused on biceps and triceps, but it's still training some secondary movements and exercises to hit other parts of my upper body even on this session. Now, the last day of my training is day 6, which is the weak point training day. If you have body parts that are weak and there's more than one, let's say there's 2 and 3, you could even cycle through these on your weak point day. But at this stage of my prep, we're using the second day for the glutes and hamstrings specifically. And again, this is based entirely on how I'm feeling. But this session, I'll start with the same protocol for calves first. Then I'll move on to some higher rep hamstring curl work. I'll hit a glute movement, a lunge movement, and then I'll finish off with 1 quad exercise if I'm feeling good. Then the last day of the week, I'll completely rest again before the second week follows. Now, if you look at this setup on the surface, it looks like a very standard body part split. But when you look at the nuanced details, you can see how this basic split can be optimized to increase the frequency. And for my needs personally, this is perfect. This allows me to hammer and focus on 1 body part per session, but not have to give up the frequency so much. And what I've been able to do as a result of this split is achieve better recovery all around. Typically at this stage, I just simply train so hard that if I do something like push-pull legs or upper lower or a 5-day hybrid split of the both, I tend to need a deload week in my training around week 5 or 6. The fatigue just catches up pretty quickly with those training plans. Currently, with this setup, I'm actually on week 9 and in a deep calorie deficit while having no issues with my recovery. So as a result, I'm able to stretch those training blocks much longer. And in the off season, that's paid off big time. And at this stage in the game for me, it's something that I foresee being a staple in my training for long periods of time. Just understand that split and that this frequency was made specifically for me and my needs. And if you're not at this level yet, copying that split probably going to significantly slow down your progress. I always say if you're at the beginning stages, the intermediate stages, and even the early advanced stages, don't immediately jump to the super advanced routines. You're going to make faster progress on the more basic programs that allow for more frequent progression. Your basic tried and true progressive methods. Take advantage of those while you can. Then, when you need to, that's when you start getting creative.